Hi, this is Mark Sabatella with Mastering MuseScore, and today I want to show you something I've been working on that I think you'll enjoy. I've been fascinated lately with the second movement of Beethoven's Sonata Pathétique. It's a really beautiful piece of music. I used to play it when I was in high school, actually, but I've been looking at it again recently, I don't know, just because I want to see what I can do with it to maybe make it more my own harmonically and with my approach to it. I mean, the piece is gorgeous as is, but it also feels like Beethoven is speaking a language that speaks to me and makes me want to see where else I can take it. So let me first play it for you. Pretty much, I'm just going to play the opening theme as Beethoven wrote it. So that is the opening theme, and then he goes on to take that same theme and play it up an octave, and then the whole form of the piece, that's if you think of that as an A section, we have the A section, then we're going to have a B section, and then it comes back and brings back the opening theme, and then we have a C section, and then back to the opening theme again, so A, B, A, C, A. So that is the form of the piece, and really the way that A section keeps coming back, I have a whole lot of different ideas that I've worked out for how I might want to approach this. And so I'm just going to start off just by talking about some of the things that I have in mind here. So first, it would be worth looking at just what the existing harmonies are. And if you're looking at this video, hopefully you can see the links to where you can get the sheet music, so you can follow along that way. It's in the key of A flat, and it starts with the 1 chord. And the next thing that we have is the 5 chord as a 7th chord in 3rd inversion, meaning the 7th is in the bass. Then we have the 1 chord again in 1st inversion. And then we have the 5 chord again in 1st inversion, with the 3rd in the bass. So we have 1, 5, 1, 5, but not in root position. It's to create this lovely bass line. Then coming back to the 1 chord again. Something a little better than boom, 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 right? So that is really lovely, and I definitely want to be able to take advantage of that. One thing I have discovered as I've been working on this piece is that particular series of inversions works beautifully when you play it as simply as this, where it's basically just triads and occasional 7ths. As soon as I start throwing in all my jazz stuff, ninths and substitutions and things like that, those inversions don't they don't allow the chords to speak the way they should, the way I would want them to. So what I'm going to do is the opening theme, I'll go ahead and use his inversions. I might still put in some of my language, but I'm going to have to keep it really, really restrained as far as what I do. I might add some color tones, and then, so I've got these extra color tones. So all I've done is I've taken this opening chord that was this, and I'm throwing in 6 and 9ths, 6 major 7ths and 9ths and things like that. Here I'm giving it a 9th. Again, 9ths. 9ths are always a safe choice for these types of chords. I'm also concerned with this motion. So the fact that it has that steady stream of, it's written as 16th notes. At the tempo it's going, I'm really feeling that more like they're 8th notes. So I'm conceptualizing this as at half the tempo it's written at. It's written 1E and 2E and 3E and right, or not even 3, it's 1 again because it's a 2/4 measure. But I'm really thinking of that as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So I've kind of doubled the note values in my conception of it. So I want to do something to keep that motor rhythm happening, but I don't want to be married to all those 16ths because I want to be freer with this. And I feel like if I establish that steady rhythm too soon, it'll be hard to let go of. So my task is to play these chords in a way where I can hear the melody, feel some motion, but not feel kind of locked into it. So one of the things... So I'm using this pattern. It's 8th quarter, 8th quarter, 8th quarter. If I play that pattern, which actually, if you know the, there's a tune by Vince Guaraldi, Cast Your Fate to the Wind. Right, it's got that pattern on it. I have that in mind, but again, I really don't want to be too specific about that. So maybe... So here, all I've really done is taken the notes that were there, but not had them be so regimented as I'm just... This chord here, so it's a 1 chord, a 5 chord in first inversion going to 6, and then this chord here, B flat 7, it's the 2, dominant 7th 2 chord, or 5 of 5, because the next chord is 5. And the way he has that voiced also is the F, the 5th in the bass. And I'm going to hold on to that for now. But the only thing that I'm going to do any different about this is this voicing here is so similar to this really typical jazz voicing that would also have a 13th. I'm going to give you that 13th. Later on, we'll look at some other voicings and other harmonization possibilities in there. And then it's going to be, I'd never want to have just a plain triad unless I really strongly want to say just a plain triad. So I'm going to make a lot of use of a few particular devices in this, and one of them is the suspension. I've already played this A flat on the B flat 7 chord. When I come to my 5 chord, I can hold on to that A flat, so it is now suspended. It's not part of the E flat chord. And I can then resolve it to the 3rd. The melody has this beautiful flat 9th in it, but then it resolves to this chord that I don't even know really what to call this chord. I mean, I can tell you literally it's a G, a B flat, a D flat, and an F. So it's a G half diminished chord with a D flat in the bass. Yet in the middle of the measure, it moves and becomes a E flat 7th chord, still with the D flat in the bass, so in 3rd inversion. So we have this chord, and it's almost the same chord, but there's just enough motion to it to feel like something interesting happened. And I was like playing with, well, what could I do to make that feel, if I made it be that, a B flat minor 7 to E flat 7, a 2, 5, it feels very much in the jazz language then. So I may make use of that later on, but again, I want to stick closer to what Beethoven has at the beginning, and the trick will be to maintain the feeling of that harmonically without having to give that specific rhythmic pattern. So maybe... So that was a 1 chord in first inversion, and then the 6th chord, or 5 of 2. So I've got this. Again, I've got the 9th, but I can move this note, and I want there to be motion, but I want it to be melodic motion, not so much the back and forth thing. I'll arpeggiate things, I'll do some back and forths, but I don't want to establish such a regular pattern yet. And then 2, and then 5. And what he has written is, so bum, bum, that's a 13th, and then the 4th, kind of on the and, which is a sort of a semi-strong beat on this, when you have 16ths. I'm just going to fill that out a little more. So I've got my 4th here that he has, but I'm adding a 9th, and I'm letting it, as the 4th goes to the 3rd, letting my 9 go to my flat 9. And then he has this lovely thing here. This is a G diminished triad on top of that A flat, which is just a beautiful sound. Jazz musicians love this sound. I might as well make it, though, a fully diminished 7th chord. This is not unique to jazz. I mean, you know, Bach used that sound too, that sound of that fully diminished 7 chord on top of 1. So just looking at it, analyzing it harmonically, seeing where I've got opportunities to add color tones and moving lines. I'm able to get something that feels a little more like it's my language while really using all of Beethoven's materials here. So again, if I just maybe play those first 8 bars. Something like that. You probably noticed I didn't play it exactly the way I did the previous time, and that's because, again, I haven't written all of this down. I'm coming at it from an improviser's perspective. I've really done a lot of analysis, and I've thought about the harmonies I want to use, thought about the approaches, but I haven't worked it out note for note. I let that happen, you know, as I'm playing. Eventually, I might try to write out a full version of this. Well, the next 8 bars is the same theme up an octave, and here I just want to talk about some additional harmonic possibilities. So again, it had originally this 1 to 5 to 1 to 5 with inversions. Well, I'm going to keep that 1 5 1 5 here. Eventually, I'm going to go 1 1 5, and here I'm using that suspension, that 4th resolving to 3rd. I'm going to use that all over the place because I'm a sucker for it. And that won't work so well with the inversion. Now, he has a 1 chord with a C in the bass, A flat chord with C in the bass, but if I make it be C minor 7, the 3 chord, this feels more like a jazz sort of thing, and I can go 3, 6, 2, 5. And on those dominant chords, 3, 6, my 6th chord, I've got a flat 9, I've got a 13, a 2, 5, and again, a flat 9 and a 13. Now, here's again where that chord, that B flat 7, I feel like I really just want to play that in root position, but maybe use that suspension thing again. Yeah? So, and then, instead of going directly to the 5 chord, maybe play a minor 2 chord. And now this, I'm going to be looking for alternatives to that. I think I really just want to try playing a 4 chord, just a plain major 7th chord here. I say plain, but I've got a major 7th and a 6th, so it's a 4 chord, but fairly plain, without this business. So, and then now that I'm on 4, instead of going to 5, I'm going to go to minor 4. 4, minor 4 to 1. It's called a minor plagal cadence. It's a beautiful sound. Beethoven actually uses it later, but I'm gonna use it here. To minor 4, and then again 3 to 6. But anytime I'm going to go 3, 6 like this, or this. In jazz terms, I would call this a 2-5. It's a 2 to 5 in the key of B flat minor, which is where we're going. Anytime you have 2 to 5 like that in the key of B flat, we can insert another chord in there. 2, flat 6, 5. This flat 6 chord to 5, that sound there is actually something in classical terminology would be called an augmented 6th chord. In fact, if I show you in the 3rd movement here, he uses that exact sound. Do I have the right spot here? Yes. Nope, I got the wrong spot. That's the wrong one. Later on, he uses it with the, no, earlier on. I should have looked it up first. Here it is. All right, so we're in the key of E flat, 5, 1, and then 4, which is basically 2, and then this chord, it's got an F minor chord and then a B7 chord. Really, it's not spelt that way. It's spelt the classical way. This is a C flat, that's an A. This is an augmented 6th chord, specifically what's called a French augmented 6th chord, resolving to 5. That's a lot of stuff. If you haven't learned about those, you have something to look forward to. But really the bottom line here is we have something that sounds like a dominant 7th chord, possibly with a altered 5th, a flatted 5th. So we have our dominant 7th chord resolving down a half step, while the leading tone goes up. So that sound is the sound of an augmented 6th chord resolving to 5. In jazz terminology, we call this tritone substitution because we see this chord as substituting for an F7 chord going to B flat. So anyhow, that's Beethoven using that sound. So I'm just using that same sound over here, but I'm throwing in, other additional color. I didn't actually use that flat 5. I used a 13th, and I'm using a flat 9 because I'm going to a chord in which I'm going to have a flat 9, and it lets me have this parallel motion. So starting at the beginning of that line, and then minor 4, and now that I've got this chord, I can do more of these moving lines. Flat 9 moving down to the root, while the 13th moves to the flat 13th. So those are just some of the ideas that I have for that opening theme. If I maybe just play through that theme again now the whole way I have it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, something like that, huh? So that's the opening theme, and it's going to come back again a couple more times. So I get to do even more things with it. But there's the B theme also and the C theme, and I really want to talk about those. But I also want to sort of make this into manageable chunks. So let's just stop this one here, just having talked about some of the possibilities for the A theme, and then we'll pick it up in a follow-up here and look at some of the other things we can do with the A theme, but also some of the things we can do with the B theme and then the C theme. So stay tuned, and I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing so far.